She landed there about 4 a.m. this morning and then started airing this commercial.
Two most disliked politicians in America, Trump and Biden. Both are consumed by chaos, negativity, and grievances of the past. The better choice for a better America? Nikki Haley.
And with us now, Kelly Laco, Executive Director of Politics for the Daily Mail, Real Clear Politics White House correspondent Phil Wegmann. Kelly, first to you. Is that enough of a direct attack on Donald Trump? She's literally in New Hampshire, mano a mano, excuse the phrase.
I think Nikki Haley's campaign and the Ron DeSantis campaign are kind of facing a reckoning right now. Either they have to ramp it up and beat Trump in a poll, or else their campaigns are dead. So I think we're going to see, a little bit more forceful ads on both sides. We're going to see a little bit more, anger coming out of their campaigns as they hit back at Donald Trump and they try to make their own case for why voters should vote for them in New Hampshire. And Nikki Haley's campaign today, as you mentioned earlier, they're focusing on a new poll out that shows her neck and neck with Trump at 40%. And I think that's an important statistic. That's removing Chris Christie from the equation. And that's really the first poll that shows where those Chris Christie voters will be headed. And it seems as though that they may be headed to back up Nikki Haley. And if that happens, she could pull ahead in that case.
Yeah, that's always been the thought, is that Chris Christie voters' second choice was Nikki Haley. I think this dynamic between Haley and DeSantis is fascinating because Haley's punching up at Donald Trump, which makes sense. That's the person to beat. DeSantis is punching down at Nikki Haley. Here he was, not in New Hampshire, but in South Carolina earlier today. Take a listen. All right, we don't have it, but he said, like Haley, look, she's been governor for 6 years. You can name major achievements under her tenure. I mean, if there are any, because she hasn't been able to do it. Phil, is he trying to almost find a way to get back in Donald Trump's good graces by staying in and playing this attack on Nikki Haley, playing the attack dog?
Oh, I wouldn't take it that far. I mean, the impression that I got from the governor when I sat down with him in Iowa in December is that he really did think that he had a chance to win Iowa. Remember, they pushed all of their chips in on that state. Of course, it didn't go the way that he wanted. But the theory of the case now for DeSantis, he sort of ditched the traditional political itinerary. He's not going to New Hampshire, where he's not polling well. Instead, he's going to South Carolina, parachuting to her backyard to keep it close there. And we heard him talk to reporters on the ground there also and say that he's keeping things competitive in Nevada, where she's not competing for delegates. So this is rearguard action from DeSantis. I think the main takeaway here, whether or not he can survive past Iowa, is that this is not the race he wanted to run. He wanted it to have cleared the field. He wanted a one-on-one race with Trump. That didn't happen. And so now he's still trying to push Haley out.
Kelly, look, it's no secret that Donald Trump wants more people in the race. The more people in the race, the more muddied the waters. When he goes one-on-one, and we saw this happen in 2016, then you have to compete, like he did with Ted Cruz at the end. Fair to say the Trump campaign's a lot more scared, at least as I understand it from talking to folks, of Nikki Haley than they are of Ron DeSantis.
I think at this point, it's sort of the Trump campaign is focused on knocking them both out. They're getting their campaigns all over the TV networks today. Yesterday at Iowa caucuses, all of Trump's main donors and supporters are saying, hey, why are Haley and DeSantis even in this race anymore? They 30 points behind him in Iowa. They're polling well behind him in many of the polls in New Hampshire, South Carolina as well. And so I think his strategy right now is knock them out hard. And I think we're going to see that from his campaign moving forward. And on the flip side, Haley and DeSantis, this is really their last lifeline heading into New Hampshire. And then we see if they even make it to Super Tuesday.
Look, New Hampshire, like Iowa, gives you the option to register on the same day. You're able to show up and say, hey, I'm a Democrat or I'm independent. I want to either caucus or primary, in the case of New Hampshire, as a Democrat. And that happened in the county that Nikki Haley won. Big turnout, all of a sudden, of newly registered Republicans. Here is one Iowa Democrat who caucused for Haley. Take a listen.
Choice between Biden losing to Trump and Nikki Haley beating Biden. I would take Nikki Haley beating Biden any day over Biden losing to Trump.
Phil, What's the dynamic going to be like in New Hampshire? I'm almost wondering if, in terms of enthusiasm and turnout and everything else, for people who are Trump agnostic, Trump sort of whatevers, or Trump haters, if this is not extraordinarily invigorating to them in New Hampshire.
So right now, I'm incredibly skeptical of any candidate who says without a shadow of the doubt that they know where their supporters might go. And, you know, when I talked to Governor DeSantis, that caveat said, he said that he didn't think that his supporters would back up Haley, that instead they would migrate to Trump. That's an open question. We'll see if it's true. Governor Chris Sununu, who's Haley's big surrogate there in New Hampshire, he is of the opinion, like you mentioned earlier, that Chris Christie's folks are going to migrate to her. So, you know, we're going to figure out where everybody ends up. But the thing that's so interesting about New Hampshire is that if you look at the polling, Trump, he obviously won in Iowa by double digits. He's ahead in South Carolina. He's ahead in Nevada. New Hampshire is the one state where one of these candidates, Nikki Haley, who is surging on the strength of attracting a lot of these moderates and independents, something that she wants to keep on going, is actually within the margin of error, and not just in the ARG poll, but in the University of New Hampshire poll. If there is going to be a challenge and not a coronation, it has to start in New Hampshire. She has to build momentum there and go to South Carolina.
I think it has to start with a win, too, right? You have to have something to change the narrative here. Win or go home. Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.